interrupt this program for an important news announcement.
Hello, friends. We're coming at you from the land of the free and the home of the brave. Made in America matters, so we are asking all red-blooded, true blue, red, white, and blue Americans to support one of our favorite U.S. American manufacturing companies, Leupold Optics. Just ask yourself, have you America today? If not, consider purchasing some new state-of-the-art shades from America's Leupold Optics. Support American manufacturing with a new pair of 6 shades from LeupoldShop.com. And right now, when you use the code Brian2020, you get a free shirt of your choice from Leupold. Might I recommend one of my favorite shirts at Leupold? This glorious American Eagle shirt, because freedom. The American spirit shines brightest when our backs are against the wall. Through wars, natural disasters, and economic collapses, we've always shown a sense of grit and ingenuity when it's needed most. It's the same self-reliant spirit Fred Leupold had when he started his Oregon-based company 113 years ago. And it's what keeps the factory performing in Oregon today. Friends, support American manufacturing, because communism sucks. Welcome to the Gritty Podcast, folks. I am joined today by Caleb Bowden of Sheep Feet, and we're going to talk about basically orthotics, custom orthotics,
right? Boots,
hiking, backpacking, and for a lot of people, this can be a quote-unquote game changer.
Game changer.
Ryan Lampers has been wearing these for
7-8 months.
Okay.
Right in that zone.
So I want to dive into this today. Now, before we do that, I want to prep some people with my experience, okay? So I've never had a lot of foot issues. I've always had, good feet, I can handle pretty minimalist boots and stuff. I like to hunt a lot in tennis shoe type stuff years ago. I ended up getting, over time, super feet, like the green ones, which are a boot insert or shoe insert. And I used those for like 6 years. And I noticed right away when I started using them that I had a lot less foot fatigue, that I could hike a long time in those with less calf and Achilles tightness and so on. And the reason I ended up in there and I ended up doing that was because I was having some problems with my low back. So I had a herniated disc for a while there in my early mid-30s. And so when they were trying to just fix the stuff, they were like, well, let's try also an orthotic and so I ended up doing that along with all sorts of things for physical therapy.
Yeah.
I don't think that had a lot to do with my low back pain, but it brought me into the world of, an insert. At the same time, I also had read a lot about barefoot running and hiking and walking around barefoot and doing things without an orthotic. And so I started doing that a lot more, feeling like, well, it's probably good to strengthen the muscle in your feet and to do it the way nature built you.
Yeah.
Get your foot out of a shoe and actually walk around and build some muscle and all that in your foot. And so as I went down that road, I started to notice some big improvement in how I felt and how long I could hike by basically walking around all day barefoot as much as I could. When I was at the office, I was barefoot. When I was at home, I was barefoot. I almost never put on a shoe because for like 8 or 9 years, I was wearing a dress shoe in business casual attire. They're the worst, dude.
Yeah.
They got a heel on them. And they're flat as a pancake. And there's nothing there for comfort.
Right.
It's straight up just for looks. And it's like and I would stand at a desk as I was fixing my back pain for hours on end in those shoes, and it was awful. So that's when I switched to standing with orthotics in a different shoe at my desk. And then when I left my office, I put on a nice looking shoe so I didn't look like a clown, went to my meetings, came back, slipped out of them, put my foot back in the inserts. I went barefoot for a long time, but on a flat surface all day long, that seemed to not help much.
Right.
Once I put in the orthotics and I stood at a flat surface, that helped until I got like a mat that had different shapes to it. And then I could stand on ground that continually sort of shifted under my feet, more like the real ground. Then I could just stand barefoot all day. And I liked that the most. But the second best was inserts. And then they ended up coming with me on everything else. I still ran barefoot for like 3 years. I would jog and run barefoot on roads and stuff. And but I would start having Achilles problems and calf tightness because I think the drop. I'd spent 35 years walking with a heel on in my shoe and running, and now I've removed that, and that little extra travel, I think, between my heel and the ground, I couldn't just elongate my Achilles and my calf muscles in a year after I'd spent 30 years wearing a heel.
Right.
In every shoe. I mean, that's just how our shoes are built. So that was kind of once I started running the insert, though, I still think it's good for me to go barefoot. I tried to do it quite often, actually. But I switched over to the inserts. And then when I got my crispy boots a few years ago, I melted the inserts when they were drying and stuff. And so for the last 2.5 years, I haven't used any inserts. And I just was wondering, how does it work if I don't wear them?
Right.
What kind of performance do I get? And what I have noticed not using inserts is that, the arch of my foot is tight and it cramps. And so when I get in my sleeping bag at night after a long day hiking, Ryan and I climb a bunch of hills and we hunt. We're doing 14 miles that day. I crawl in my bag. If I point my toes, my foot gets cramps and just gets stuck like that. Like it happens every couple of days or after heavy activity. And it's just like, it's just pain. And I'm just like, come on. And then finally it'll relax. And I just grit through it. I force it to cramp. And then finally and I stretch and I roll and I get like a lacrosse ball. And I'll work the bottom of my foot. But I never had that when I was running inserts. So then you guys come along and you guys did it a little different because when I bought Super Feet, they were just
standard off the shelf. And I like the heel cup. The way that they hit my arch, though, was always a little bit too intense. But after I wore them for 3 or 4 weeks, I got used to it, and it seemed to be overall, it felt better than not having them. Right.
But they weren't custom.
No. And they make a lot of those inserts. They make them really a lot more flimsy because they just can't cater to everybody's foot style. So they'll make just a general average size. And so when someone steps on it, it's a little bit more flimsy so that it can break down and kind of form to more people's arch as close as it can.
So it sort of probably adjusted for me as I wore it.
Right.
A little bit. When you guys came down to the gym and you did imprints of our feet.
The
impressions. You did my feet. You did Jordan's feet. I was disturbed because there's like 4 of us standing there with feet, and there's a picture on your Sheep Feet Instagram page.
Yeah.
My foot is like square. It looks like a hobbit foot.
It's bigger.
Everyone else's foot is like, it tapers in the middle and they got this arch. This is one giant flat hobbit foot.
Yeah, you look at Jordan's feet and it was like a foot model or something. It has such a good arch and it's like all pretty, and then yours is just like a man foot. Just big. And
I think Jordan is bigger foot than me, but that thing is, there's nothing sexy about that foot. It's flat and wide. But I've always been athletic and ran well and all that. So one thing I'm curious about is, what does that mean? Like, are certain feet, I imagine it's like other parts of a person's physique. Your feet are, some people are tall, some are short, and so on. Is there like what is Jordan's foot better built for certain things than my foot, or
no? Everybody's feet are just different. I mean, that's kind of the big problem is everybody has different genetics.
You can really see it in that photo.
Yeah,
that's why when you look at a boot and someone's like, you're like, I love this boot. It's the best boot ever. And you recommend it to a guy and he gets it. That's why I always tell people, this is the boot I like, but I have friends who love this boot and I have friends who love that boot.
Right.
When you look at that photo, you can see how drastically different our feet are.
Yeah, and a lot of boot companies, they'll just make, which is the best thing they could possibly do, they make the floor on the inside of that boot really, really flat. Sometimes you'll have a boot company that'll make it more aggressive and they have more of an arch shape built into it. They're trying to cater to a specific foot type, but everybody's feet are different, exactly like you said. So
my Crispies are flat. And I'll tell you, like, as I've been hiking the last couple of months with a heavy pack, because we've done some pretty long trips in remote areas. So we've ended up being a lot of miles with heavy loads. And then you're packing your meat out as well. And I felt more than ever lately, like, I feel like I'm standing on concrete in that boot more than before. Just because of the loads, I think, and the duration. So how does, I was talking to Ryan because he's got these, like, what's the difference? And he's like, dude, he was using some other, I think, Super Feet before that.
Right.
He's like, Brian, these are killer. I'm like, well, I should have some by now.
Yeah, no, it's pretty night and day difference because a custom orthotic is made specifically to you. So when we took your impression, we came up here and we went back, we had an impression exactly how your foot's shaped, width, how your arch is shaped, everything. So then we take that and we pour that with plaster. And then once we pull it out, we have a replica of your foot exactly. So then we're able to take that foot and make the corrections just to make sure that you're in the complete neutral position so that your foot's not rocking inward or it's not rocking outward, because that can throw off a lot of things. And then when we're able to press our foot frames, which are really, really strong and really, really lightweight, we're able to get that support right into where your arch is. So it's not pushing in too much. It's not uncomfortable. It's made specifically to your foot. So when you put it inside your boot, you have a fully custom boot system. The nice part is you're not spending tons of money to buy a custom boot and then wear it out in a year or two and have to buy another one. Once you go through that boot, you just slip out your custom orthotic, sheep feet, throw it in the other boot, and you just keep going.
So what's the theory, the science, I guess, behind having an insert versus not?
Right. And kind of what you talked about, kind of that minimalist approach earlier. I mean, back in, I guess, hunter-gatherer times, that stronger feet, that was definitely a thing. Going barefoot, perfect.
Last season, during elk season, I hunted solo like 16 days. I had a couple buddies there a couple of those days, but I wore stockasins from morning till dark every day. And we spike camped. Every now and then when I carried my camp somewhere, I'd put my boots on and hike to that spot. Once I got there and I would spark out and hunt, I was hunting 4 to 8 miles a day in stockasins, which is just a leather moccasin. I loved it. I love walking around in them. It's so comfortable all day. I never fatigue. You know, it's great. I don't want them with a backpack on.
Right.
I don't have the stability. I don't have the edge. I can't carry the load as well. They don't have any traction either. They're just a leather sole. But carrying my body weight, sneaking through the wood, you know, ninja style behind a herd of elk, it's brilliant.
Yeah, quiet, good. Everything.
I love it. But then there are times when I need a boot and, you know, I'm going to be in one and I'm going to be in one for most of the hunt, like some of these other hunts I do. I don't have the luxury of going into a moccasin.
Right. And it's really similar to a backpack. It's a really good analogy to look at. You're going to put a bunch of gear on your back, pack out meat. It's going to be a lot heavier. So you don't just want a backpack that doesn't have a frame in it.
Right.
You want that frame to assist you. You can train, you can get your back as strong as possible, but that's not to say I want to get a strong back and I don't need a frame in my back. I can do it all myself.
Yeah.
It's good to work together. Yeah. And they go hand in hand so that it's safer, it's easier to handle all the weight, and you're able to go farther. And the sheep feet are just pretty much that same principle. Once you're going, you're walking. I mean, back in, like I was saying, the hunter-gatherer times, people were a lot skinnier than they are now.
Yeah.
They were lean. Body fat wasn't there. Nowadays, we're bigger. We put on muscle. We have a lot more weight to us, and we have a lot of hard surfaces. So for some people, there's approaches that work for everybody. The minimalist, the barefoot can work for a lot of people. With custom orthotics, it's not saying don't strengthen your feet, because absolutely.
You're right.
Why would you not want to make yourself better in every way? But when you're out hunting and you have the weight on your back, that can cause a lot of problems with your foot foundation. So it can cause your arches to start to roll in or to break down, and that can cause a ton of problems. The analogy that I like to use is the foundation of a house. If someone had built the foundation wrong and it was off or it was cracked, it can cause problems all the way up through the walls and even into the ceiling. And our bodies are no different. So the feet are our foundation. And if we're walking, and some people have no arches or high arches, which causes them to roll in, pronate, or roll out super bad. And that can just throw off the alignment of your kinetic chain in your body, which is just the joints that go vertically up your body. So from your ankles to your knees to your hips to your back, there's lots of little things that can get thrown off. So if the foundation of your foot is completely net level and neutral, and you have that little bit of support in your arch that keeps you from rolling in or rolling out, it just allows everything to be in alignment and to work exactly how it's supposed to work.
Okay.
So that's exactly what the orthotics do. They hold you in that alignment, and then when you're putting really, really heavy loads on your back, you're going on a 5-10 miler, or you're going out a 5-mile hike that day, it just keeps you in that position. So a lot of these simple pains and issues that people have can be prevented and help address by simply getting that alignment corrected and letting everything move how it is. So nothing's strained or having pressure on a joint or a ligament too much, tendons, any of that.
So one thing I noticed when I was running super feet, those would be in the boot, and one of the things I really liked was my foot felt like it had, without the super feet, I felt like there was a lot of room in the boot, or my foot would shift in the boot. Once I put in the super feet, I felt like it would lock my foot into a position.
Right.
The heel cup and everything would grab onto stuff. And then when I laced it up, I didn't need to have the boot laced as tight to achieve a nice fit, so that when I'm on a steep slope or incline, my foot wasn't shifting around inside that boot. It just was right in there where it needed to stay. And the heel cup really helped a lot for me.
Yeah.
I noticed, and then when I didn't wear it, I really hated the feel.
Right.
You know? But when I look at this right here, it's a lot different than my super feet insert was. First of all, I mean, it's just way softer up in here. So I'm like, does it do anything? You know, so what is it in here that I'm seeing? Because it's a lot different, I guess.
Right.
And it's got different layers and different aspects to it. And my super feet were really hard, but kind of, this is hard back here, but you've also got this foam layer on top, which I think mine was, I don't remember it having that.
Yeah. So we have a couple different layers and components that do different things. Like you were saying, when you have with a custom orthotic or with our sheep feet, because it's custom to your foot, it's going right where your arch is, and it's going to help lock that foot in. So you're not going to have as much. Some people have heel slippage or slipping up in the front of by the balls of their feet. That will help to eliminate a lot of that. The layer of the yellow that you're seeing, that's our XC cushion, extreme curl cushion. That stuff's incredible for absorbing impact. We have some videos where we'll drop a bowling ball and we'll match it up against just a standard cushion that's like EVA cushion that's just like in your super feet. Drop it and the bowling ball will just sit and bounce. We dropped it from 20 feet and I think it bounced up 12 or 13 feet and just kept bouncing. Drop that same bowling ball on our XC cushion and it hits once and then just sticks. It just absorbs 90% more impact than other cushions.
Wow.
So, and we knew when we were building this that, I mean, we're all hunters. Many generations, we love hunting. We wanted to build it as good as possible and for the hunter. So this XC cushion that we put on it, because it absorbs so much impact, it just helps absorb all that shock that would be coming to your feet while you're out hunting or doing different things. But it also allows for a ton more comfort and break-in specifically to your foot. And then if someone has maybe a pressure point on their foot, it allows some give. So the comfort's there. The heel that you're seeing at the back is what we call the heel stabilizer. And
it looks a lot different.
Those are awesome.
Okay.
So I don't think I would ever hunt without it. I had a pair without, and then I had a pair with it. And I was hunting, and then I was like, I need my other pair. Threw them in on a backcountry mule deer hunt. And when we are side hilling, the difference is just insane because it works together with a boot. Instead of not having an insole or an orthotic and you're side hilling, the boot is what's giving your ankle that support from rolling. But when you have both, it just goes hand in hand. It helps to lock in that heel when you're on steep side hills or whatever you're doing, uneven terrain, so you don't roll it. And then it also, with the boot, just locks you in. That's super awesome. And our foot frame, like I already said, super lightweight. Our composite plastic, it's insane how strong that stuff is. So it does give your arch that support, so you're not going to be rolling in. You're going to stay in that position, and then it carries on. So
how did you guys, who's the mastermind behind this, and how did you guys come up with this design and build?
So I actually designed it and built it with the different materials. I guess the mastermind, it'd be generational. So my grandfather was a podiatrist, and my father didn't want to become a doctor. That just wasn't his cup of tea, all the schooling. But he did like to work with his hands. So he went back and studied the biomechanics of the foot and how to manufacture custom orthotics. And once he got done with that, his schooling back east in Chicago, and he came back, opened up a lab, and then it's a family business. I mean, we hunted our whole lives, and I grew up working there, and it was just something that dawned on me that everybody needs it for their boots. And from doing it so long. It's just, these are all the components that we were able to put together to make any boot a custom boot system.
And that's one thing I was going to ask you. You know, sometimes you wonder why more boot companies don't do this. Is, you know, an important part of a boot system.
Mm-hmm.
You know, why don't they sell a boot that has this? Well, because there's a whole process in getting a custom orthotic made.
Right. It's a lot of work.
And you got to have these individual participate in the process.
Yeah.
In my mind, it's not a very good business model if you're going to try to manufacture these and make boots.
Right.
Because you can't just market those, put them in retail outlets, you know. So boot companies, from what I can tell, they have a pretty minimal. It's almost like today they expect you to pull out their inserts that they sell.
Yeah.
They're very minimal. It's like they almost, everyone to a T kind of expects you to take it out and put something else in, you know, or run with what they put in there. But there are a few companies I know that do a custom. They want a boatload of money for a custom boot. And I don't know that you can pull that insert out and put it in another boot, can you?
There's a couple. And a lot of times when they say custom, like to the shape of your foot, it's not so much custom and corrective, but some of them, they'll be like a gel or different things like that. So a truly custom corrective one, I don't really know of another one.
Okay. And so how long have you guys been in business then?
So about a year now. So it was just something where I saw the need. I've never had a problem putting on boots, and every boot's always fit me. And then you hear people complaining, well, this boot sucks, this doesn't fit me. But I'd say 95% of the time, it's not the boot company's fault. And they actually do a really good job. There's just more to the equation. Some people want just the solve all, one answer. I want a boot that's just going to fix my feet and it's going to be awesome to hike in. But there's lots of different things. You need a boot, you need a custom orthotic, a pair of socks. It's not just such a simple equation. And so a lot of those boot companies, they're doing a great job by making it nice and flat so that they're trying to cover as many people as they can. And then when you pair it with other things, it just makes it better.
Yeah. Well, I do know for me, I've worn a lot. I've had the benefit of being able to test a lot of different boots. So in the Crispy lineup, you know, I'm testing the Brickstall, the Colorado, the Nevada uninsulated, the Nevada insulated, the Idaho, the Thor, the Summit. You know, I'm able to run all these boots. That would cost someone a mini fortune,
right,
at $300 or $400 a pair to be able to do that. And as I've tested all those different boots, I have come to the realization that I am a unique person with my own unique feet and movement patterns and so on. And especially in the realm of socks and sock liners, that is a game changer for me. Like it is vital that I have certain socks and liners. My feet sweat more than I think any human on the planet, or they're real close.
Yeah.
If I see a deer or an elk, like a trophy critter, the adrenaline that comes, and then my feet gush sweat. They gush. I might as well have stepped in a creek. They are so soaking wet. My hands and feet sweat. Like when I'm excited, nervous, if I'm on the precipice of a cliff, you know, could fall off, my feet gush. And so I've had to figure that out over time. You know, what works for me and what doesn't. And I think more guys should spend time testing that, because it's such a critical piece of the hunt. And I know a lot of guys, like Ryan and I, covered some wicked miles, some heavy loads. And we were talking about it, and he said 90, like most of the time, I don't know what percentage, but most of the time he's done those 100-mile death hikes and stuff. And he's like, you know, they did one in, like, I don't know, 17 hours, something stupid. And when we were talking about it, there were a lot of tough guys on that trip and fit guys, but most of them, when they quit, it was because their feet quit on them. It was blisters. It was sore feet. It was swollen toes, toenails, things like that. It was almost always the feet,
right?
Not necessarily anything else up the chain.
A lot of people don't realize how complex a foot is. They look down, it's like, well, I got 2 feet, but like your feet have 26 bones and over 100 muscles and ligaments in it. So they are really complex parts of the body that get overlooked. They do need a lot of care. And I mean, they're the things that are carrying you around. So
I also think that when I put my foot in a certain type of boot, like I've worn some boots, and I'm like, if I'm going to go in sheep country straight up, straight down, and that's my day, and it's it's a 4 or 5 hour day or something. I would wear the Colorado on my left foot and a Nevada on the right foot, and I'd hike all day and see what that felt like, and then what my foot felt like when I got back, and so on. And what I found was, man, I really loved that Colorado when I'm going straight up and straight down. In fact, there wasn't a comparison really. It felt so much better than the Nevada. But then you tack onto that flat terrain hiking for 5 miles, and you got to wear the Colorado through that.
It's not going to be as good.
I was like, okay, this is far worse than the discomfort I felt on the incline all day. The little bit of difference I got out of the Colorado on those steeps was severely canceled out when I had to go 5 miles with a heavy pack on a relatively flat trail. The foot fatigue was crazy once I got back. So I've learned like certain boots especially are ideal for certain situations. But if I'm going to, hike a lot of miles and climb some steeps, the all-around boot that I liked best was the Nevada. Ryan, though, Lampers wears that Laponia, and it might as well be a moccasin.
Yeah, it's really flexible.
It is so soft, and it's comfortable. I mean, no doubt. And there's a really thin profile on the bottom. Your foot's very close to the ground. There's not a lot of thick sole there. It's fairly decent width-wise. And he and James rock that boot all the time, and it's perfect for them. For me, it's like I need the ankle support system.
Right.
I've sprained my ankle. I broke both ankles in high school playing basketball. Broke the left one, and then like the next year I broke the right one. Snapped lots of bones and ligaments in ball games.
Yeah.
And they've never been the same since. In a little roll on a rock or whatever, and it just goes, especially with a heavy load on. As much as I'd love to rock the Laponia, that's a problem for me.
Yeah.
Because it doesn't have that ABSS system that Crispy makes. And I wore the Summit, and I sprained my ankle really bad in sheep country when I was in British Columbia. And I was hunting mountain goats up there in Bessa Valley, and I was carrying a whole goat out in my backpack, and I slipped on a rock, just a little rock.
Yeah.
And it just went snap, and my ankle was huge. And I've never sprained my ankle in a boot that has that ABSS system that Crispy makes, but I've done it a couple times now in the boots that don't. So I really like those boots that don't.
Right.
But now I've just come to it's not worth the risk. So these are things I figure out after spending a lot of time in tons of country and various terrain and conditions, what works and what doesn't. And the orthotics are a piece I feel like have been missing in the last couple of years, because I do have a little more movement in the boot. And I really wanted to see what it was like. And the foot cramping has been way more intense. But it's a whole system. Back to your point earlier, I feel like, talking to Ryan a lot on this last trip, I'm eager to run the sheep feet. I'm eager to continue with my systems, which I use a Smart Wool sock liner, the really thin sock liner. I've tried a whole bunch of others. In fact, Ryan told me, and Jeff Lusk, our friend Jeff, you got to run those 5-finger toed
socks.
What are they? The Injinja or whatever. Some like Japanese brand sock thing. I'm like, sure. Worst change in my life. Like, didn't wick away the moisture well at all from my foot. I started getting they were too wet, and they didn't transfer from next to my skin into the outer sock well. And I was developing blisters within 2 days. As soon as I switched back to the other sock liners and my outer sock, which I use Darn Tough or Farm to Feet right now. I also have some old Gore socks that they made that are my favorite, but I've worn them all out and they're done for. Yeah. And they don't make them anymore. But messing around with that combination is critical for me. And then, so I feel like right now I just need to add these and see what the performance level is at that point, how they work.
And I mean, like you were saying, no one wants to be on a hunt. that they've waited a long time for, limited entry, or you're hunting a sheep and then have one of those injuries.
Yeah.
And that's why custom orthotics are such a key piece, is because they help once everything's aligned to prevent those injuries, to give your foot that extra support to not roll.
And the thing that's interesting is I feel like the orthotics fit in every situation, because Ryan has that soft Laponia that he loves, yet he's running these. I know guys that have to have a stiff boot. Guys I've hunted with that want basically a boot that is like a brick. Like it does not move at all. I don't know how they do it, yet they wear a boot that's any softer and they're falling apart. I have just learned that feet are an individual thing.
Right.
And so I think too, you can mess around with the 3 or 4 different models of super feet, and it's probably better than not having something.
It's definitely better than not having something.
But given that everyone's foot is so unique, and that's the one thing that's really hit home to me, I feel like that's where a custom orthotic really can make, I think, that next level of difference.
Right.
Same with the boots. I look at some companies that have come out with 2 boots. They're like, we got 2 boots. And I'm like, and I look at when I go down to Crispy and talk to Kendall, and I see like they're bringing in another boot with another combo foot sole, and it's got this, and there's a huge selection of Crispy boots that you can choose from, all with different feels, width, sizes, styles, tops, uppers, lowers.
It seems like for every style of hunting, there's a boot that's specifically for that.
And what I found is there are people who love boots in that lineup that I despise.
Yeah.
And there are people who hate the boots that I like. It really is an individual thing.
Absolutely.
I don't think any company that decides to come out with a one boot fits all is going to work. It just won't.
It won't.
It will not work. There's too many variables and preferences between person to person when it comes to feet.
Mm-hmm.
So that brings me to this next question. What has been, testimonial wise, like what has been the reaction to these, being developed for the hunting community? What has been the reaction, and has there been people who haven't liked them, or has it been all positive? Like, where are you guys at with?
Yeah, so it's been all positive.
Don't lie to me
up to this point.
Caleb.
I'm not.
Don't lie to me, Caleb.
I'm not. Go start asking around. It's because of that whole boot thing. There's not a boot that fits everybody's foot. There's not a one fit all, but a custom orthotic fits everybody's foot. Your foot. Exactly. So people are just amazed by the support that's in the arch that they weren't used to having when they start walking in it. And some people can get kind of scared thinking, oh, it's a hard piece of plastic. That doesn't seem like it would be very comfortable. But when it's made specifically to you, it fits like a glove. It's really comfortable.
When I was doing physical therapy, the first orthotics I got were a brown piece of plastic.
Okay.
They were just
a
brown piece of plastic that had been molded to my foot.
Mm-hmm.
And it only went to like the ball of my foot.
Yeah.
It was just this
3/4 length.
3/4 length.
Mm-hmm.
And it was at the hospital. They built them, and then they had me start using them.
Yeah.
And they were hard as a rock. And at first I was like, you want me to, in your mind, you're thinking, I need a big cheap piece of memory foam or something.
Right.
That'd be ideal. And yet it was actually hard. It turned out that it did provide quite a bit of relief and comfort, even though it's a very hard sole, which is kind of counterintuitive.
It is. It can be kind of a scary thought, but when it is made right to all your curves and how your foot is, it just fits. And then the support's there, so they do feel really good. We offer a half length. That's, I think, exactly what you're talking about. And they're more for like everyday use. Because, I mean, you can use these in your hunting boots, move them to your regular day shoes, like you were saying, standing at the desk in your dress shoes, throw them in there, move them back. So we do offer one that moves really easily in between all your different shoes. The full lengths are more specifically shaped to a boot. So when someone orders or they get their impression kit after we ship it, there's an instruction sheet that tells them how to do it, and then it says, now all we need is you to trace the insole that's in your boot. So you just remove the insole, trace around it, and then when we make that orthotic for you, we make it specifically to fit your boot too. that they're going in. So it can be a little bit more difficult to move those around, but it's still doable. But we do offer both of those, the half lengths and the full lengths, to help cover people. Because, I mean, it's good to use it while you're hunting to take that load, but some people, everybody's feet are different. Some people need that support through every day, and it's good to have both of them.
Gotcha. Okay. And how does it work if someone wants a pair, they don't live, let's say they live here, and can they swing down to a shop?
Yeah, you can swing down. We're located in Orem. Just reach out to us. Social media, there's a contact form on the website as well. We can get that taken care of you. But once you order, the process is really simple. Once you order, we mail you the impression kit, and we have a video on the website that you just go watch. It's like a 5-minute video, and it shows you how to do a good one. Super, super simple. A lot of people get worried that they're going to mess it up.
Yeah.
But if you don't go in very far, shallow, that's about the only way you can mess it up. As long as you put your foot in and push it down. They have to make the corrections anyway in the plasterwork. So, and they're really, really good at it. Okay. So they can pretty much compensate for whatever. But once we get that done, there's a prepaid mailing label in it, and they just slap it on there, stick it back in the mail, and mail it back to us. It's that simple. Then it takes us about 10 working days to build them.
Well, Ryan digs them, and he's put them. Ryan doesn't really recommend anything until he's really put some time behind them. I'm the same way. I'm also a huge skeptic. So when I see stuff like this, I'm like, gimmick. until I start to, in fact, I didn't really pursue getting these. In fact, when you guys showed up, I was like, whatever. Okay.
Right.
I went through it. I peppered you guys with a million questions. I was like, well, we'll see what happens. Then I hang out with Ryan, and then I see him use them over and over. And then he's like, yeah, they're great. Then I'm like, all right, fine. I'll call them. Let's do this, and here we are. But I'm excited to try them out and see how they improve the hunts.
I'm excited for you to use them.
My feet really have been cramping quite a bit, more than they have in the past. And I want to see how this could alleviate it. And part of it's just because the sheer number of days in the field have just, every year I do gritty, my days in the field seem to have incrementally increased, and so have the heavy loads. So I think it's just that point where it's like, okay, anything I can do to improve performance, I want to do that. I still run in a minimalist type of shoe when I'm up on the mountain. I still hike a lot because I do believe in strengthening my feet. Right. I don't necessarily want everything to be neutral and supported. Like, I want to develop that muscle. But when I'm out there in the mountains and I'm carrying something super heavy and all that, and I'm putting on the kind of miles I am, it's sort of like a knee brace or a back or a weight belt doing heavy squats. Right. Like, it's like I get to a point where I'm doing things where I'd like a little support. I don't want to do it natural, And that's what these orthotics gain. That's what sheep feet are going to do. They're going to be there, and they're going to give you that support in your arch, but they're not going to make you rely on it. They're just going to keep you from, when you have heavy loads on, keep your arches from collapsing past where they need to go. So it's just going to keep that foot in the correct alignment that it needs to be in. So you're not rocking in or out. So your foot's still going to need to be on there to stabilize and be strong, just like what you're doing. That's great. It's going to be really, really comfortable. And then it's a safety precaution. It's going to be there to give your foot the arch support that it needs. So, and I think that might help you a lot. I'm curious to see with some of your cramps, because if our arches are collapsing and we're rolling in, it can cause a lot of stress on those ligaments that run through the foot, like the plantar fascia ligament. Right, goes up from the Achilles down under the heel, up through the arch to the front of the foot. That's a huge problem that people have, and that can be helped with a custom orthotic, so that everything can be aligned and nothing's getting pulled tighter than it needs to be and then cramp. So I'm excited to see if that helps you out with what your cramps are going on. Me too. You were saying, like, so you guys have been doing this about a year now, and that might give people the impression that you really don't know what you're doing. But this isn't just something you've been doing for a year. This is your grandpa, your father, you guys, and this company that's geared toward the hunting community. This is something that's new. Right. My father's been making them, his lab, for doctors across the country for
almost 45 years now. So yeah, it's not something that's new. It's something that's new to the hunting industry because there's a need.
Yeah.
And that's what we are trying to address to help people that have some of these pains where they go out on a hike and it's like, oh man, I got to take a day off because my lower back's killing me, or just some simple things like that these can definitely help with in a lot of cases. But yeah, nothing that's new to us at all. The family, we've been doing it for a long time. I just saw the need to do it, and so that's where we started Sheep Feet.
It's really cool. How much, if a guy is looking, what are we talking? How much does something like this cost? So
the one you're holding, that one that's like the fully loaded one, has your double cushion, and your double cushion is about 3/16 of an inch thick. So it is about the same size as a Super Feet, in case people are wondering. Has the double cushion and the heel stabilizer on it, and it's the full length for specific hunting boots or whatever.
Yep.
So that one runs about $250.
Okay. And that includes like the custom part, the kit, or?
Oh yeah. Yeah. You
so the
you
whole
go
thing.
pick it out, whichever one you want. Once you purchase it, that's including everything.
Okay.
And free shipping. We cover shipping as well. So that's where you're at. I mean, you can look at if someone's running a pair of insoles like Super Feet, they're going to be right around, if you're going to get a good one, it's like $50, $50-$60. And I mean, right on the boxes, it says last up to a year. And I know guys that go through multiple a year that hike really, really hard.
Okay.
So once you really weigh it, it's like you're going through a couple of years of those, and you've already paid for a pair of Sheep Feet custom orthotics that are custom to your foot and they're corrective.
How long does this last?
5+ years.
So they're going to.
It's always good after a chunk of time to recast and do it, but those last a really long time. And we offer what's called a restore, where if you go through a couple seasons, and I mean all of our products are antimicrobial. There's people like you that just sweat, and nothing's going to be sweat proof.
Yeah.
They're going to start to get nasty and stinky after a while, and all you have to do is pay for a restore, send them back to us, and we'll completely tear it down and then rebuild it brand new again.
Okay.
With all the paddings and stuff on top of your foot frame.
Sweet. Because the frame probably doesn't really disappear. I mean, it's built in a way it doesn't break down or anything. It's just the foam and all that.
Right. We've tested them for a long time, so it's really, really high quality plastic. It's not really going to break down.
Do you find that people's feet change quite a bit over 10 years or something?
Yeah. People's feet, there's lots of parts on people's body that are always changing, like ears and things like that. But feet are one of those things. The older we get, the fatty pads start to disintegrate, start to go away. Different problems with the body can cause us to do different things. So yeah, feet change, and it's always good, like every 5 years, to do it again if you're gonna get a pair.
In 1 year, I put about 2,000 miles, more than 2,000 miles on a pair of boots, like a Crispy Summit or whatever, 2,500 miles. So they're done pretty much right about, after about 1 year.
Yeah.
Before I did Gritty, I could get 3 to 5 years, and I was out hunting a lot and hiking a lot. I could get 3-5 years out of what I can do in a year. But when you look at the boots after the end of a year that I wear, there's no rubber left on the soles.
Yeah.
The rand's coming undone. The stitching never really comes undone, but the boot is done.
Yeah.
The leather is spent. It's shrunken. It's hard. It's not supple anymore. You're beating the hell out of this stuff.
Keep walking on it every step.
Yeah. So, and we're doing it in shale and rock and cliffs. And so you really break it down. But everything we wear and everything we use does last a long time.
Right.
So I'm excited. I want to try this out and see. I'll report back to everybody how it's doing. Now can people get a discount on these?
Yes.
So can I give them a discount code?
Yeah. Yes, you can.
Can we make it up right now?
Yeah, heck yeah.
Can we call it Gritty?
Yeah, use code Gritty and get 10% off.
Okay, so that means if it was $250, they'd save $25, right?
And then we do free shipping, so
okay,
that's where you'd be sitting.
There you go, folks. For those that are interested, use the code Gritty. Those of you that are skeptics and aren't sure you want to spend the money, I'll come back in 3 to 6 months, and if I don't like them, I'll let you know. If I like them, I'll let you know. Right. I suspect if Ryan really is a fan that I'm going to like him too.
Yeah, you're going to love him. Not worried
And
about that.
based on my previous experience using them, I always preferred having them as to not having them.
Mm-hmm.
So I think I'm going to dig them.
Yeah. They're just a really good investment to get into. Health's something that we should always invest in. But yeah, people are going to love them on the mountain. That's for sure.
Okay. And they can go to sheepfeet.com.
Sheepfeet.com. Yep.
And
sheepfeetoutdoors.com.
And your Instagram page, what is that?
Sheepfeet Outdoors.
Okay. Sheepfeet Outdoors.
Mm-hmm.
So don't forget the outdoors part, folks. All right. Anything else you want to add, Caleb?
No. Thanks for having me.
Hey, you bet.
This is a blast talking about feet.
It'll be interesting. I'd love to hear back from people who have used them already. I'd like to get your opinion. And if you're out there and you're a listener and you've used them, chime in, leave us a comment on our YouTube channel on this podcast video, or DM us on Instagram. And for those that are interested, hit you guys up and get into it. And
yeah,
I'll start rocking these on some hardcore hikes and then see how I feel in 6 months.
Sweet.
Okay.
Okay, man.
Thanks for tuning in, folks. Stay gritty.